The sheikh's laptop flashed breach alerts right as the $100 million humanitarian deal was about to close. Confidential donor files vanished. Panic swept the hotel conference room. The sheikh saw his legacy crumbling. But Maya, the waitress refilling coffee, had once worked in cybersecurity before life forced her into serving. She glanced at the glass wall, spotted the reflection of a man running from the hallway, and knew exactly what to do. In 3 minutes, she traced his device through the hotel router, caught the spy, and changed everything. Sheikh Rahman had spent 2 years negotiating a humanitarian deal that would build hospitals across 3 war-torn nations. At 42, he was known for moving millions with quiet authority. But in a Dubai hotel conference room, his empire of trust collapsed the moment breach alerts screamed across his screen. The room held government officials, donor representatives, and legal teams, all watching helplessly as confidential files disappeared in real time. Nobody had seen this coming, and nobody could have predicted that the person who would save it all was a waitress named Maya, a former IT professional who had been forced out of her career and into a job pouring coffee for strangers. This is a story about what happens when cybercrime invades the world's most secure spaces and how one woman's forgotten skills became a nation's last line of defense. Maya was never supposed to be invisible. Born in Cairo to a family of engineers, she had learned to code before she learned to drive. By 25, she was a senior network analyst at one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the Middle East. She built intrusion detection systems. She traced threats across continents. She sat in glass-walled offices overlooking Dubai's financial district, her days filled with firewalls and forensic logs. Her colleagues called her the silent hunter because she rarely spoke during investigations. She simply found the breach, mapped the attacker's path, and shut them down every time. Then came the incident that ended everything, a whistleblower case. Maya discovered that her firm had been quietly covering up a massive ransomware attack on a government hospital. Rather than report it, the company paid the ransom and doctored the logs. Maya refused to stay quiet. She copied the evidence. She went to a journalist. Within a week, the story broke, the hospital sued, and Maya was terminated, blacklisted. No security firm in the region would hire her. The word on the grapevine was that she was a liability, a woman who had betrayed her employer's trust. The truth did not matter. In a world built on networks, one bad reference can sever every connection. Her savings evaporated in 6 months. She applied to 62 jobs in technology and received 1 interview, which was cancelled without explanation. She sold her apartment in Dubai Marina. She moved into a cramped flat in Deira, the older district, where the walls were thin and the air conditioning groaned through the night. For the first time in her life, Maya Kamal, cybersecurity specialist, could not find a single person willing to hire her. That was how she ended up at the catering company. A friend of a friend knew someone who could get her a job serving at corporate events. No background check required. No questions about why a woman with a degree in network engineering and a decade of experience was pouring coffee for a living. She tucked her certifications into a drawer, pulled her hair into a tight bun, and learned to carry trays of champagne without spilling. She accepted the role as a quiet surrender. The world had decided she was invisible, so she might as well play the part. She did not know, as she ironed her white server's blouse on the morning of the conference, that everything was about to change. Meanwhile, Sheikh Rahman was counting down the hours to the most important meeting of his life. His full name was Sheikh Rahman Al Nouri, and at 42, he had built a fortune in logistics and import-export that placed his net worth somewhere north of $3 billion. But unlike many of his peers, Rahman had never been comfortable with wealth for its own sake. He had grown up in a village near Basra, where the only hospital was a 2-room clinic with 1 doctor for 60,000 people. He remembered watching his aunt die of a preventable infection because there were no surgical facilities within 100 miles. That memory had never left him. Over the past 2 years, he had designed something unprecedented. A humanitarian agreement that would fund the construction of 12 fully equipped hospitals in 3 conflict-torn regions: Syria, Yemen, and Sudan. The total cost exceeded $170 million. He had secured pledges from 5 royal families, 2 European development funds, and a consortium of tech philanthropists. All that remained was the final signing, scheduled for today in a private conference room on the 23rd floor of the address downtown Dubai Hotel. The room had been swept for bugs that morning. The internet connection was a dedicated, encrypted line provided by the hotel's business center. The guests were a hand-picked group: 2 government ministers, a representative from the World Health Organization, 3 major donors, and a legal team of 6 attorneys. Every participant had been cleared by security. Every device had been checked. The deal was, by all appearances, airtight. But appearances, as Maya would soon demonstrate, mean nothing in a world where a single unlocked port can bring an empire to its knees. At 10:43 that morning, Sheikh Rahman opened his laptop to display the final contract. The room hushed. The ministers leaned forward. A representative from the Saudi Development Fund moved a pen toward the signature line. And then, in the space of 3 seconds, the screen changed. Breach alert, file transfer in progress, you are being hacked. Red boxes bloomed across the display. The folder marked Donor Agreements Confidential minimized itself and vanished. Another window popped open, showing a live directory tree as files began downloading en masse. Someone, somewhere in the building, was inside the Sheikh's machine, and they were taking everything. Sheikh Rahman's hands froze. The ministers stared. The lawyers reached for their phones, but no one knew who to call. The entire room had been whitelisted on the network. No one outside should have been able to access this connection. The breach was impossible, and yet it was happening right now in front of 11 witnesses and $300 million in pledges. That was when Maya stepped into the room with a tray of fresh coffee. She immediately clocked the panic. She saw the Sheikh's screen, the flashing alerts, the open file directory. In a heartbeat, her mind shifted from server mode to incident response mode. She set the tray down quietly. She scanned the room, the ministers frozen, the tech support babbling into a phone, the security guard standing uselessly by the door. And then she looked at the glass wall that separated the conference room from the corridor. In the reflection, she saw a man in a dark jacket walking quickly away from the room, his hand holding a tablet that glowed with the same red and white interface that had just hijacked the Sheikh's laptop. Maya's breath caught. She had seen that interface before. It was a remote access tool called Shadowgate, a commercial spyware package that had been circulating on the dark web for the past 18 months. She had personally written the detection signatures for it during her final months at the firm. The attacker was not some faceless hacker across the world. He was here in the hotel, connected to the same local Wi-Fi network. He had bypassed the room's encryption by exploiting the hotel's router, and he was getting away. She did not think. She did not ask permission. She pulled out her phone and typed the router's default gateway address into her browser. Most hotels never bothered to change the admin credentials from the factory defaults. Within seconds, she was looking at a list of all connected devices. There were 37 of them. 11 belonged to the conference room. One, a tablet with a MAC address she did not recognize, was actively pushing a data stream to an external server. The signal strength suggested it was less than 50 meters away. She had him, but stopping him would require more than just a trace. She would have to block his connection, identify his precise location, and alert security before the stolen data could be fully exfiltrated. She would have to do all of this while the most powerful men in the room watched, while the Sheikh's empire teetered on the edge of collapse, and while the spy, whoever he was, still believed he was invisible. Maya took a deep breath. She had been invisible for years. Now she would use that invisibility as her greatest weapon. She turned toward the security guard and spoke 5 words that would detonate the next 3 minutes of her life. "Lock the floor, he's here." And then the real hunt began. The security guard's name was Hassan. He was 24, lightly trained, and had never drawn his weapon. When the waitress locked eyes with him and ordered the floor sealed, his first instinct was to ask questions. But something in her voice, something cold, calibrated, and entirely unlike a server, flipped a switch in his brain. He pressed the emergency lockdown button on his radio. Every stairwell door on the 23rd floor magnetically sealed. The elevators froze. The corridor fell silent. Maya was already moving. She handed her phone to Hassan with the router dashboard open. "See this device? MAC address ending in 4D7 Alpha. That's our attacker. If it disconnects, we lose him. Watch the signal strength. Anything above -45 decibels means he's still within 50 meters. Anything lower, call it out." Hassan stared at the screen as if she had handed him a live grenade. "I don't understand half of what you just said." "You don't have to. Just tell me if that number drops." She turned and walked swiftly down the corridor, her soft server shoes silent on the marble. The reflective glass walls of the conference room receded behind her. She scanned each doorway, each alcove. The attacker would be nearby. Shadowgate's default range was limited by the strength of the local Wi-Fi. If he was still transmitting, he had to be on this floor. Inside the locked conference room, Sheikh Rahman was still processing the chaos. The data theft had halted. The pop-up windows on his screen had vanished. But a dark thought now gripped him. What had been taken? The donor agreements were sensitive enough, but inside that same folder was another file. A file he had not intended to share with anyone except his lead engineer. It contained the architectural blueprints for the hospital that would be built near Aleppo, including the underground surgical bunker, the pharmaceutical storage, and critically, the emergency communication grid. If those schematics fell into the wrong hands, the hospital would be a target before its foundation was even laid. He stood up, his voice hoarse. "Get me hotel security. Now." But Maya was hospital security now. She had become, in those first 30 seconds, the only person on the 23rd floor who understood the full shape of the threat. She passed an ice machine alcove and paused. The phone in her hand, her own device, still tethered to the router dashboard, showed the attacker's signal hovering at -42 decibels. Close, but the hallway was a straight line of closed doors. She pressed her ear to the first one. Nothing. The second, nothing. The third door, a service room marked linens, had a faint electronic hum. She pushed it open. Inside, wedged between two shelving carts of folded towels, a man hunched over a tablet. He looked up. For a single, suspended moment, they locked eyes. He was European, mid-30s, wearing a dark blazer with no visible insignia. His tablet displayed the same red and white interface she had seen on the sheikh's laptop. And stacked beside him, a portable Wi-Fi repeater, a high-gain antenna that extended his range back to the hotel's main router. He had built a private bridge. That was how he had bypassed the room's whitelist. Maya registered all of this in under a second. She also registered the small pistol tucked into his belt. He grabbed the tablet and the antenna and bolted. Maya did not scream. She did not chase blindly. She turned and ran back toward the elevators, where she knew the stairwell doors were now locked. Hassan was there, still staring at the router screen. "Signals dropping," he shouted. "-51, he's moving. He's heading for the east stairwell," Maya said, arriving breathlessly. "Is it sealed?" "Yes," but the sound of a shoulder slamming against a steel door echoed from the far end of the corridor. Then again, the spy was trying to force the stairwell lock. Maya knew the hotel's emergency bars could be broken with enough force. They had seconds. She grabbed Hassan's radio. "This is Maya Kamal. I'm with security on the 23rd floor. We have an active data breach suspect attempting to breach the east stairwell. Locked on the 22nd and 24th floors. No one enters the stairwells on those levels." A crackle, a voice. "Who is this? Identify yourself." "I'm the person who just stopped a multi-million-dollar espionage operation in real time," Maya snapped. "Now lock those floors." She thrust the radio back into Hassan's hands and ran toward the sound. The east stairwell door was partially open, its magnetic lock sparking. The attacker had wedged something between the door and the frame. As Maya approached, the wedge snapped and the door swung wide. The man plunged into the stairwell. Maya followed without hesitation. The stairwell was harshly lit, concrete and echoing. She could hear his footsteps 3 flights below already. Her shoes, flat, soft-soled, gave her the advantage of silence. She moved downward fast but quiet, one hand on the rail, listening. The spy had stopped moving. She froze on the landing between the 21st and 20th floors. Silence. Then a faint tap, the sound of a tablet screen being touched. He was still trying to transfer data. The Wi-Fi repeater must be battery-powered. He had not given up. He was buying time. Maya pulled out her phone. The router dashboard now showed the attacker's device moving laterally, not descending further. The signal was stronger again. He was on the 20th floor. She texted Hassan, "Suspect on 20, send security, east stairwell door." But here is the thing about luxury hotels. Their security teams are trained for noise complaints and lost luggage, not active cyber espionage. When the two guards arrived on the 20th floor, they hesitated outside the stairwell door, waiting for instructions. The delay cost them the element of surprise. The attacker heard the radio crackle. He burst out of the stairwell onto the 20th floor and sprinted down the corridor. Maya was 10 seconds behind him. She came through the door in time to see him duck into a room, one of the penthouse suites, its door ajar. A "Do Not Disturb" sign hung on the handle. He slammed the door shut and threw the deadbolt. Maya slammed her palm against the door. It did not budge. She turned to the guards, who were now standing behind her, uncertain. "That room, any other access?" "Service entrance," one of them said, "but it's keycard only." She did not have a keycard, but she did have the router dashboard. She noted the MAC address of the attacker's tablet. She opened the hotel network management page, scrolled to device controls, and hit block MAC address. The tablet's connection died instantly. No Wi-Fi, no exfiltration. The spy was now trapped with whatever data he had already stolen, unable to send it out. And then she did something that made the guards step back. She opened the hotel's VoIP interface, the system that managed all room phones, and targeted the device ID associated with the penthouse suite's phone. She initiated a forced ring. Inside the room, the phone blasted a shrill, insistent ring. And then from her phone's speaker she spoke. The VoIP system allowed intercom access. "Room service," she said, her voice calm and professional. "I'm outside with your order. Could you open the door, please?" A long pause, then slowly the deadbolt clicked. The door opened a crack, and Maya, with the guards flanking her, pushed through. The man stood in the center of the suite, tablet in hand, his face a mask of confusion and fury. The phone was still ringing. He had no signal. He was cornered. He raised his empty hands. "I'm a journalist," he said. "I have rights." Maya looked at the portable Wi-Fi repeater on the coffee table, its indicator lights still blinking. She looked at the tablet, its screen frozen mid-transfer. She looked at the hotel phone, its cord dangling off the hook. And then she looked back at the man. "Journalists don't carry Shadowgate exploit kits," she said, "and they don't carry guns." One of the guards spotted the pistol and lunged forward, pinning the man against the wall. Within seconds, the suite flooded with security personnel, real security now, the hotel's crisis response team. The spy was disarmed and cuffed. On the tablet, the data transfer was stuck at 87%. Sheikh Rahman's confidential files had not fully exfiltrated, but the 87% that had been taken represented the most sensitive documents in the deal, including the Aleppo hospital blueprints. The sheikh himself arrived minutes later, escorted by his personal protection team. He walked into the suite, saw Maya standing amid the chaos, and stopped. His expression was unreadable. "You," he said, "you are the waitress." Maya hesitated. "My name is Maya Kamal. I used to work in cybersecurity." Sheikh Rahman looked at the spy, now seated on the floor with his hands zip-tied behind his back. Then he looked at the tablet, its screen still glowing with fragments of his life's work. "What did he take?" "Everything in your root folder," Maya said. "Donor agreements, fund allocations, and I think," she pointed at a thumbnail image on the tablet, "structural schematics." "Is that a hospital?" The sheikh's face went pale. "The Aleppo Medical Facility. It has a subterranean surgical wing. If those plans are public, the entire site is compromised before construction begins. Every faction in the region will know the layout. They'll know where the oxygen tanks are stored, where the emergency exits are, where to strike." A chill settled over the room. This was not merely theft. This was weaponization. The hotel's head of security, a former Dubai police captain named Aref, began questioning the suspect. His identification claimed he was a tech consultant from Luxembourg, hired by an anonymous client to intercept high-value business intelligence. But the tools he carried, the military-grade Wi-Fi repeater, the Shadowgate exploit kit, the encrypted communications app on his phone, told a different story. This was not a freelance job. This was state-level tradecraft. When Aref searched the man's backpack, he found something that made his blood run cold. A printed map of the Aleppo region with the proposed hospital location circled in red. Below the circle, handwritten in Arabic, "Target for secondary strike after infrastructure mapped." The spy had not been stealing data to sell it. He had been conducting reconnaissance for a future attack. Sheikh Rahman sank into a chair, his hands trembling. For 2 years, he had navigated war zones, negotiated with warlords, convinced donors that hospitals could be built in the most dangerous places on Earth. And now, on the threshold of making his vision real, he had learned that those very plans might become a death warrant for his staff, his patients, and the mission itself. Maya watched him, and something shifted inside her. She had been invisible, yes, but she was not anymore. She knelt beside the sheikh and spoke quietly. The data didn't fully transfer. He has 87%, but the remaining 13%, the security specifications, the structural reinforcement details, those are still on your laptop. If we move fast, we can change the designs before they're used against us. The sheikh looked up, hope flickering. Can we trace who sent him, who this client is? Maya's eyes moved to the spy's phone, still lying on the table. It was locked, but she knew a thing or two about unlocking phones. She reached for it. And then the spy laughed. It was a low, humorless sound. "You think you've won," he said, his accent now clearly Eastern European. "You've stopped one courier, but the data's already been seen. The moment I connected, my client received the streaming feed. 87% is enough. They have the maps. They have the donor lists. They know who's funding this, and they know exactly where to hit." He leaned forward, his eyes glinting. "The attack isn't digital anymore, it's physical. And it's already in motion." The room fell silent. Aref's hand tightened on his radio. Sheikh Rahman's face drained of the last of its color, and Maya, staring at the spy's phone, realized that the next phase of the threat was not about code. It was about people, the people already traveling to Aleppo, the construction crews already assembling supplies, the advance team already on the ground. She needed to warn them. She needed to unlock that phone. She needed to find out who the client was before it was too late. She turned to the sheikh and spoke 6 words that would launch the most desperate hour of their lives. "We have less time than we think." The spy's phone sat on the coffee table like an unexploded bomb. Aref, the former police captain, had already tried the standard forensic precautions. He had photographed the device in situ, bagged it in a Faraday pouch to block remote wipe signals, and instructed his team not to touch the screen. But Maya knew that time was the one thing they did not have. If the spy was telling the truth, then the 87% of data already streamed to his client had been seen by people who were now acting on it. The Aleppo advance team, a group of 12 engineers, 2 surgeons, and a project manager named Dr. Yasmin Farouk, were already on site, laying the groundwork for the hospital's foundation. They were the most vulnerable targets. Maya picked up the phone. It was a ruggedized device, the kind favored by field operatives. The screen asked for a 12-digit alphanumeric passcode. She had one attempt before it locked permanently. She turned to the spy, who was still seated on the floor under guard, and knelt down. "What's the code?" he smiled. "Even if I gave it to you, it wouldn't help. The device is paired to a biometric dead man's switch. The moment I'm out of range, it self-destructs. You need my thumbprint and my pulse. And you don't strike me as the type who tortures." Maya felt a cold wash of frustration. He was lying about the dead man's switch. She could see the Bluetooth indicator was inactive, which meant no paired wearable. But she didn't correct him. She had a different idea. She lifted the phone, opened the emergency dialer, and typed a string of characters, **5748#. It was an old generation backdoor code for this particular model, one she had memorized from a penetration testing manual 3 years ago. The screen flickered, then opened directly into the settings menu. The spy's smirk vanished. "How did you?" "I read manuals," Maya said. She navigated to the device's installed applications. There was a secure messaging app called Cyphercom, the kind used by intelligence agencies. The most recent message was time-stamped 17 minutes ago, just before the breach began. It read, "Target engaged, stream initiated, confirm receipt." The reply, from a contact labeled only as Al-Muhandis, the engineer, was a single word: Received. Maya's blood chilled. Al-Muhandis was not just any alias. It was the nom de guerre of a former Syrian military intelligence officer named Walid Qassem, a man wanted by Interpol for orchestrating attacks on humanitarian convoys. He had been linked to the disappearance of 3 vaccination teams in Homs, and now he had a copy of the Aleppo hospital blueprints. She showed the message to Sheikh Rahman. He read it in silence, then closed his eyes. Qassem. He is funded by a faction that wants the region destabilized. They burn hospitals. They kill doctors. If he has those blueprints, he knows exactly where the surgical wing will be built. He knows the supply corridors, the oxygen storage, the evacuation routes. Aref leaned forward. Can we warn the advance team? They have satellite phones. The sheikh grabbed his own device and dialed Dr. Farouk's number. It rang, and then a recorded message in Arabic. The number you have dialed is not reachable. He tried again, same message. He tried the backup satellite link. Dead. Aref ran to the hotel's communications center and discovered that a coordinated jamming signal had been activated across the Aleppo region. The advance team was cut off from all contact, and Qassem's men were almost certainly moving toward them. But here is the thing that made the situation even darker. As Maya continued digging through the spy's phone, she found a second messaging thread. This one was not with Qassem. It was with a contact saved as Mousa. The messages were in English, coded with jargon that Maya recognized as logistics coordination. And one line, sent 2 hours before the attack, read, "Client will ensure room assignment for target laptop. Confirm encryption disabled on dedicated line." Sheikh Rahman read the line and went pale. The dedicated line in the conference room was supposed to be encrypted end to end. The room was supposed to be swept. The only way the spy could have breached the laptop so easily was if someone on the inside had disabled the encryption before the meeting began. Someone with access to the hotel's network infrastructure. Someone who knew which room the sheikh would be using. Someone named Mousa. The sheikh's head of security, a stoic Jordanian named Tariq, stepped forward. "Mousa is one of our IT contractors. He set up the room this morning. He configured the router." Tariq grabbed his radio and called down to the hotel's network operations center. No answer. He called the front desk. No answer. He called Mousa's personal number. It went straight to voicemail. The mole had vanished. In that moment, the narrative of the attack shifted from a single opportunistic breach to a deeply orchestrated conspiracy. The spy was not a lone actor. He was part of a cell. The data theft was not the endgame. It was the trigger. And the advance team in Aleppo was walking into a trap that had been laid weeks, maybe months, in advance. Maya re-examined the spy's tablet, the one he had used to initiate the breach. She noticed something she had missed in the chaos. A secondary data stream, smaller but constant, feeding to a different IP address entirely. She traced the IP using an open-source geolocation tool on her own phone. The signal terminated at a server farm in Minsk, but the registered owner was a shell company linked to an arms dealer who had sold weapons to Qassem's faction. She cross-referenced the data packets with the sheikh's stolen files. This secondary stream was not copying documents. It was sending GPS coordinates, specifically the coordinates of the advance team's temporary camp, which had been stored in a logistics attachment inside the sheikh's planning folder. The spy had just given Qassem the exact location of 12 unarmed civilians. The room erupted. Tariq began coordinating with the sheikh's private security team in Aleppo, but they were based in Damascus, still hours away by helicopter. Aref contacted Dubai's cybersecurity emergency response unit. The sheikh made frantic calls to any diplomatic channel that might reach the region. But Maya knew the math. Qassem's men were likely already within striking distance. The camp was in open terrain. There was no way to hide. And then came the pivot that reframed everything they thought they understood. The spy, still on the floor, started laughing again. It was a hollow, guttural sound that cut through the panic. "You're all so focused on Aleppo," he said, "but that's not the only target. Look at the timestamps on the messages." The data stream started 20 minutes before the sheikh even opened his laptop. The attack began in the morning, before the room was swept. Before the encryption was disabled, before any of you even arrived. Maya's eyes widened. She scrolled back through the cyphercom thread, checking the timestamps against the hotel's network logs. The first packet had been sent at 8:47 that morning. The sheikh's team had arrived at 9. The room had been configured at 7:30, which meant the breach was active before the room was even set up. Someone had planted a persistent backdoor in the laptop before it ever entered the conference room. The spy's tablet was merely triggering the final extraction. The actual compromise had happened days earlier, perhaps during a software update, a maintenance window, or a brief moment when the laptop was left unattended in the sheikh's home office. The implications were staggering. The malware was already inside the laptop's operating system at the kernel level. Even if they secured the current device, any attempt to change the hospital blueprints, inform the donors, or coordinate a rescue would be visible to the attacker. They were fighting blind against an enemy who had eyes on their every digital move. "Burn the laptop," Maya said suddenly. "Physically destroy it, right now, before he can use it to track our response." Tarek hesitated for a split second, then drew his weapon and fired 3 rounds into the laptop's hard drive. The screen shattered. The device went dark, it was gone, and with it the immediate surveillance, but the damage was done. Qasim had the blueprints, the camp's coordinates, and the knowledge that the sheikh was now aware of the breach. The only advantage they had left was time, and that was rapidly dwindling. Maya stood up, her mind racing. She had stopped the data exfiltration. She had identified the spy, the mole, and the secondary target, but the physical threat in Aleppo was still live. And there was one more thing she had not shared yet. During the trace, she had noticed a third device on the network, a device that was not the spy's tablet, not the laptop, not any known hardware. It had connected briefly at 8:47, authenticated using Mouse's credentials, and then disconnected. It had uploaded a single file to the sheikh's machine, a keystroke logger disguised as a font update. That was the initial breach vector. And the device's MAC address was registered to the hotel's corporate office in Amman, Jordan, which meant the conspiracy extended far beyond this one hotel. This was an international operation, and the mole in it was just one link in a much longer chain. The final escalation came when Aref received a call from the hotel's regional security director. The director's voice was shaking. "We just got word from our intelligence liaison. 3 armed convoys were spotted moving toward the coordinates you flagged. They'll reach the advance team's camp in approximately 90 minutes. The Syrian government has been notified, but the area is contested. No air support is available. The team is on its own. 90 minutes, 12 lives, no reinforcements." Sheikh Rahman stood, his face a mask of grim determination. "Then we go ourselves." He turned to Maya. "You understand this technology better than anyone in this building. I understand the terrain. Together we can get a warning to that team, but we have to leave now. We have to fly to Aleppo." Maya stared at him. "Fly to Aleppo? The nearest functional airstrip is 70 kilometers from the camp. By the time we land, they'll already be under attack." "Not if we use the emergency helicopter," the sheikh said. "There's a private helipad at the Dubai Creek Golf Club. I have a pilot on retainer. The flight is 3 hours. If we leave now, we arrive with 30 minutes to spare. 30 minutes to save 12 people from a trained militia that already had the blueprints of their location." It was insane, it was desperate, and it was the only option. Maya grabbed her phone, the router dashboard still active, and downloaded every log she could find. She would need evidence. She would need forensics. She would need to prove, after all of this was over, that the attack had happened exactly as she had traced it. But more immediately, she needed to figure out how to jam Qasim's communications long enough to extract the team. She looked at the sheikh. "I'm coming with you, but before we take off, I need access to a satellite uplink and a clean laptop. I'm going to do something your mole won't expect." "What?" "I'm going to send Qasim a fake set of blueprints, a decoy, and I'm going to make him believe the advance team has moved to a different location. If he takes the bait, his convoys will go to the wrong coordinates. That buys us the window we need." The sheikh nodded slowly. "And if he doesn't take the bait," Maya's jaw tightened, "then we're flying into an active combat zone with no backup, no weapons, and no guarantee that anyone is still alive when we get there." She picked up the spy's phone, now fully under her control. She opened Cyphercom one last time and stared at the contact labeled Al-Muhandis. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. The message she was about to send would either save 12 lives or sign their death warrants. She took a breath. Then she began typing, and somewhere in the sky above the Syrian desert, the clock started ticking. Maya's fingers moved across the spy's phone with the precision of a surgeon. She composed a message to Al-Muhandis, mimicking the spy's previous terse style. Client compromised. Extraction detected. Team relocating to secondary site. Coordinates to follow. Abort current route. She attached a new set of GPS coordinates, a location in the opposite direction, a barren stretch of desert where no one would be. If Qasim's men diverted, the advance team would have just enough time to escape. If he saw through the ruse, they were all dead. Maya pressed send and felt the weight of 12 strangers pressing against her chest. 40 minutes later, the Sheikh's helicopter lifted off from the Dubai Creek helipad. It was a sleek black Augusta Westland, built for speed, stripped of luxury and packed with communications gear. Tariq sat in the cockpit with the pilot, monitoring satellite feeds. Sheikh Rahman sat across from Maya, his eyes fixed on the darkening horizon. The helicopter sliced through the afternoon sky, heading northwest toward the Gulf and then across Saudi Arabia toward the Syrian border. For the first hour, no one spoke. Maya worked on a clean laptop, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She rebuilt the decoy blueprints she had promised, layering false structural details into the schematics that would mislead anyone trying to plan an attack. If Qasim's men had already disseminated the original plans, the decoy would create confusion. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The Sheikh watched her with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "You could have walked away," he said finally. "You could have let security handle it. You were not obligated to do any of this." Maya paused, her fingers hovering over the keys. 2 years ago, I had a job that meant everything to me. I lost it because I chose to stand up for the truth. I've been invisible ever since. When I saw your screen flashing, I realized that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless. It means being able to see things others overlook. The Sheikh nodded slowly. My aunt died because she couldn't reach a hospital. I became rich, but I never stopped feeling invisible to the people who could have helped her. The donors, the diplomats, the world. That's why I built this deal, to make sure no one feels invisible anymore. In that helicopter cabin, 2 strangers from opposite worlds found common ground. They were both fighting the same thing, a system that let lives slip through the cracks while the powerful looked away. The deal wasn't just about hospitals, it was about visibility. And now, together, they were racing to ensure that 12 people would not be forgotten. At the 3-hour mark, the helicopter crossed into Syrian airspace. Tariq received a garbled transmission from the Damascus security team. The convoys had been spotted. 2 of them had diverted toward the decoy coordinates. The third, however, had continued toward the original camp. The gambit had partially worked. Qasim had split his forces, uncertain which intelligence to trust. That indecision bought them the sliver of time they needed. The helicopter descended toward a flat ridge 2 kilometers from the advance team's camp. The pilot navigated by night vision instruments, the landscape below a patchwork of darkness and distant firelight. As they touched down, Tariq and the pilot grabbed medical kits and satellite phones. Maya grabbed her laptop. The Sheikh, despite his age and exhaustion, refused to stay behind. They moved on foot through the rocky terrain, guided by the faint glow of the camp's generator. They found the camp empty. Tents stood in neat rows, equipment untouched, but no people. A half-eaten meal sat on a folding table. A radio crackled with static. For a terrifying moment, they thought they were too late. Then a voice called out from the darkness, "Ana Huna, I'm here." Dr. Yasmin Farouk emerged from behind a supply truck, her face smeared with dust and relief. She explained that they had received a cryptic warning 30 minutes earlier. A Bedouin tracker from a nearby village had seen the approaching convoy and sprinted ahead to alert them. The team had hidden in a dry riverbed a kilometer south. No one was harmed. The convoy had passed by without stopping, its attention fixed on the decoy site. The camp, ironically, had been left untouched. The Sheikh embraced her, tears streaming down his face. Maya stood to the side, suddenly exhausted, her body trembling. It was over, the team was safe. The hospitals would be built. But she knew that over was a relative term. Qasim was still out there, the mole was still missing, and the stolen data, even partial, was still in hostile hands. Back in Dubai 2 days later, the aftermath unfolded rapidly. The spy, whose real name was Victor Radek, turned out to be a former signals intelligence operative from Belarus who had been freelancing for Qasim's network. Facing extradition and multiple life sentences, he agreed to cooperate. His testimony led to the arrest of the mole Moussa, who was captured trying to cross the border into Oman. Moussa's confession revealed that the conspiracy stretched even further. Qasim had been targeting multiple humanitarian organizations, hoping to destabilize the entire region by attacking the very people trying to rebuild it. The Sheikh's foundation, with Maya's help, fortified its cybersecurity. The decay blueprints she created were leaked intentionally, creating a layer of false intelligence that would plague Qasim's planning for months. And the advanced team, now relocated and reinforced, broke ground on the Aleppo hospital 6 weeks later. Dr. Farouk sent a photograph, the foundation stone, inscribed with a dedication to Maya's grandmother, the woman who had taught her to stand up for the truth. But the final surprising detail came from an unexpected source. 3 weeks after the rescue, Maya received an encrypted message through an old channel she had not checked in years. It was from the journalist who had broken the whistleblower story that destroyed her career. He had been investigating the arms dealer linked to Qasim and discovered something extraordinary. The malware used to breach the Sheikh's laptop had originally been developed by a state-backed group, but the version Victor Radek deployed contained a signature flaw, a backdoor within the backdoor. That flaw had been placed there deliberately by a developer who had once worked for a rival intelligence agency. In short, the spy had been spied on. The message concluded, "Your trace work from that hotel room didn't just save 12 lives, it exposed a vulnerability in the entire network. Multiple intelligence agencies are now using your data to dismantle Qasim's operation from the inside. You didn't just stop a breach, you started a counter-offensive." Maya read the message 3 times. Then she closed her laptop and looked out at the Dubai skyline. She was no longer invisible. The Sheikh had offered her the position of Chief Security Officer for his foundation, a role that gave her the resources to protect humanitarian workers across the globe. She accepted, but with one condition, that a portion of the foundation's funding would go toward training refugees in cybersecurity. Because she knew, better than anyone, that the next hero might be pouring coffee in a hotel room, waiting for the moment the world needed them. The Sheikh agreed without hesitation. And so, 2 strangers transformed by crisis became partners in a new mission. The hospital deal that almost collapsed now stood as a symbol of resilience. And the waitress who traced an IP address in 3 minutes had not only saved a deal, she had reclaimed her purpose, changed her life, and reminded the world that the most powerful protectors are often the ones we never think to look for. What Maya's story reveals is not just the triumph of one woman over a single breach. It exposes a quiet crisis that operates in the blind spots of our digital lives. Hotel conference rooms, boardrooms, coffee shops, the spaces we assume are safe, are increasingly the front lines of invisible warfare. The hospitality industry alone suffered over $4 million in average breach costs last year, but numbers tell only part of the truth. Behind every intrusion is a human-intended consequence: stolen plans that could turn a hospital into a target, donor lists that endanger lives, the careers ruined by whistleblowing while the real offenders walk free. The system was not designed to catch someone like Maya. It was designed to overlook her. Yet the system did not count on her competence. It did not count on the fact that the person pouring your coffee might know more about network forensics than your entire IT department. The lesson is not just about cybersecurity. It is about the talent we waste when we measure people by their job titles instead of their capabilities. Maya was invisible because she had been blacklisted, because she was a woman, because she did not look like the people we expect to hold power. And when the moment came, she did not wait for permission. She acted. The question her story leaves us with is deeply uncomfortable. How many people like Maya are standing in the corners of our workplaces right now, unnoticed and underestimated, carrying skills that could transform a crisis? How many potential heroes have we already dismissed because they did not fit the profile? And what does it say about our institutions, our hotels, our corporations, our governments, that a waitress with a phone had to fill the gap left by miles of security protocol? Maya herself has an answer. She now trains refugees in cybersecurity, people who have lost everything and who understand that knowledge is the one asset no one can steal. She tells them what her grandmother told her: gifts are meant to be shared. Sheikh Rahman's hospitals will stand because of her. The counter-offensive that dismantled Qasim's network continues. The spy is in prison, the mole is exposed, but the real victory is quieter. It's in the message that Maya broadcasts every day to those who feel invisible. Your moment will come. Be ready. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you believe that courage has no uniform and that one person's skill can change the world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more true stories of unexpected heroism. Drop a comment below. Tell us about a time you were underestimated or a moment when you stepped up despite the odds. And remember, the most important tools you'll ever carry are not in your wallet. They're in your mind, in your training, and in your refusal to stay silent. In a world that can buy almost anything, you cannot buy the readiness that lives in people like Maya. And you can never, ever buy the courage to act when it matters most.